Yat ait Arnold Tasokagi, DA AIBE do Studio G Virtual Conference na kanal kidoleh. She Rachel Livingston yinashye, AIBE Banashnish do Outreach Coordinator nishle. Not nicht ejet kutchi ni nishlo de Bethlehem bushes chin, sit na jini a dash nele do kutchi ni a dash che. Hello, greetings to all that have joined us today. My name is Rachel Livingston. I'm Dinette of the Charcoal Street Running into Water clan and born for the Black Sheep clan. I'd like to welcome you all to the AIBE and Studio G virtual conference and wish a happy Native American Heritage Month to my fellow brothers and sisters, while also encouraging you all to attend the Native American Small Business panel later on today in honor of. Today we have a great line of speakers ranging from breakout sessions, fire chats, and panels. Enjoy time online with us, and may we have all the minimal amount of technical difficulties. I'll let our program director, Dr. Kramer Winningham, take it from here.
Thanks, Rachel. Welcome, everybody. To get started, I've got an intro from our CEO and director, Kathy Hansen. Let me play this. Let's have all the speakers mute their mics. All right.
All right, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
There you are. Bill, how's it going?
Good, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect timing. We're just getting started. I'm going to do an intro about Studio G, and then you're up.
Beautiful. I'm going to switch things around. I was thinking about this last night.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Let me give this presentation, and we'll go for it.
Cocktail party. So you guys don't use Zoom, huh?
Yeah, we're doing this. This is a different format. The reason we're doing this is because then we can have multiple events at the same time without the breakout rooms. And then everybody can choose from there. All right, very good. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Studio G Conference 2020. We want to thank our conference sponsors, Arrowhead Center, Daniels Fund, and the Minority Business Development Agency. And all our great sponsors for Studio G. They're the ones that let us do what we do with Studio G. So thank you. Thank you to all our speakers, and also thanks to Brooke Montgomery. She works with me on Studio G, and she did a great job planning this event. So I want to give you guys a little background on Studio G. I know a lot of you in attendance today already in Studio G. If you're not, here's a chance to learn about it. Studio G is Arrowhead Student Business Accelerator. Our mission is to help students start and grow businesses. It's totally free for students and recent alumni at NMSU and participating sites. And in 2019, Studio G is ranked as one of the top 20 university business incubators in the world by UBI Global. So we're really excited about that ranking. The reason we're doing this is to support entrepreneurs to grow the economy. We've got more than 1,000 active members. We're at 18 sites throughout New Mexico and Texas, and lots of great resources. You can see we got a really deep advisor network in a lot of different areas. So if you join Studio G, you get access to some great advisors to help you with your startup. The program's grown a lot over the years, and we've helped a lot of student entrepreneurs on the way. And in the last 5 years, Studio G Ventures have hired more than 1,000 people, and so we hope to continue growing that. Here's some logos of some of our Studio G sites. We're always looking to add more, so if anybody's at a school that we're not at yet, let us know, and we'll try to set up a Studio G site there. And so the way it works is that if you've taken classes at any of these schools within the last 5 years, you're eligible to join Studio G, and you can join at this link. If you just Google Studio G NMSU, you can find that as well. And follow us on social media. We've also got social media for all our different sites. All right, so as far as how this conference is going to work, you may have seen already, there is an agenda in Run the World. And so that's why we're using this platform instead of Zoom. It's a little different, but I think it's going to work out great. You can see some concurrent sessions, so you can go in and out of these sessions and choose the ones that you're most interested in. Lots of great speakers, so definitely dig in and go to the sessions you're interested in. The questions will be asked in the chat, so that's the easiest way. There is an option that we've had some success with where you can grab the mic. So you're encouraged to do both of those things. For this first session with the keynote from Bill Aulet, he's going to talk for about 15 minutes on discipline entrepreneurship, why he created it, and how it can help your startup. Then he's got an exercise, and there's some Q&A. And we've actually got some prizes for the first 10 people to ask questions. We're going to be able to mail you a book, the Discipline Entrepreneurship book. So definitely a great book. And so just a little intro on Bill Aulet. I first met Bill in 2013. I was just starting working for Studio G, and was reading several of these books on entrepreneurship education. We were teaching Lean Launchpad methodology, which came out of Stanford, which we still do, and we were teaching at the time. We ran into some issues, and so anyway, when I got to read Discipline Entrepreneurship, it definitely filled a void. It's an incredible book, and I ended up writing a paper called Discipline Entrepreneurship, an alternative to Lean Launch. And then Bill Aulet reached out, and so we've been connecting ever since. He shared a lot of great resources and definitely been a big help for Studio G growing to become what it is. And so I'm really excited to be able to introduce Bill as our keynote speaker for today's conference.
Thank you very much, Kramer. Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Yeah, so this is a real honor. I've watched what Kramer's been doing out there in Studio G, and have been so impressed with it. And so when he called up, I said I would love to. I would love to be out there with you. And when I heard it's with the American Indian Business Enterprise as well, that was just another kicker. So what I want to do here this morning is I'm going to change it up. I was thinking about this last night and everything that's going on. I just want to talk to you, about what's going on right now and how entrepreneurship fits in with that. And that will get to, I think, some of what we talked about, Kramer and I talked about before. But let me just start with a personal story. In 1981, I graduated from college, and then I had gone and played basketball for a year in Europe, and I came home and I had to get a job. And my parents were very worried about it, even though I had done well. And when I got a job at IBM, I'll never forget it. Not only were my parents incredibly happy, but in the interview they said, we're offering you a job, and if you accept it, you have a job for life. So it was full employment. It was if I didn't screw up, I had a job for the rest of my life at IBM, and they believed it, and I believed it, and it was generally true for quite a while until it wasn't. In 1992-93 timeframe, we had to start having layoffs at IBM, and it became much different. And there are no companies anymore where you have a job for life. There is no organization where you have a job for life. Maybe the closest is if you get tenure in an academic institution. But even that, I would wonder about. So what's the moral of that story? The moral of the story is that entrepreneurship was a path that I took in 1993-94 to kind of out of curiosity, out of interest, and not particularly well thought out. But in hindsight, it was brilliant because what it's done for me is give control of my life. You know, you can't depend on other people for employment. You have to make yourself fully employable. You need to be able to create your own job. And if you do, then you can live your life much more confidently. You can do the things that you want to do. You can have the impact that you want to have. You can live where you want to live. People often talk about the dignity of a job, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. People who have jobs have dignity. But I would also take that a step further and talk about the super dignity of being an entrepreneur. And I want to talk today about what it is to be an entrepreneur now and why that has become so much more important. It's not just about controlling your destiny. So can I share slides here, Kramer? Is there a way to share?
Down at the bottom, if you click share screen, and then you can pick whether to share your whole screen or the
share screen
application window.
Okay, application window. I am a oops. Let me try this one. And I put together some slides for you. No, stop. Wait, I just stopped sharing.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then, Bill, when you go to full screen, once you shared it, then you won't be able to see around the world. But I'll let you know if you.
Okay. Let me try this again. Where's around the world? Around the world. So if you couldn't tell, I'm an old white guy, and I've gotten very good at one thing, Zoom. But okay, application window. And where is the application window? Application, there it is. And nope, I want that one. New Mexico. Let's try this one. Nope. All right, so can you see my screen now?
It's showing the Windows Explorer instead of the presentation. Look like you had it before.
Okay. If only we knew someone from a technical institute, Kramer. Okay, shut this down, share screen, and where is the application? And now I want to go to PowerPoint. Your entire screen. If I do this, let me try this. And if I then flip to this, will this work?
I'll tell you.
Can you see my PowerPoint now?
I'm still seeing the Chrome.
Oh, Lordy. Okay. Sorry, everybody. So let's stop sharing this. Share it again. Share. Stop streaming. All right. So let me just talk to you then. So, what is entrepreneurship? If you're an engineer, the first rule of engineering is define your term. So what is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is creating, to the economist, is creating a new organization that produces products where there was none before. That organization is economically sustainable. By that we mean that it sells a product, it creates a product and sells that product and gets paid for that product. And that money that it gets back is more than the cost of making the product and all the other things, so it can continue to survive. So entrepreneurship is at its core an economic activity of capitalism. It is, how do we create value for someone and extract enough value to cover all our costs so that we can continue to make more products for more people? This gets into the question of that's possible, but then that becomes a restaurant, that becomes a nail salon, that becomes an IT service company. And that is true. That is entrepreneurial activity. That entrepreneurial activity is of the kind that focuses on local markets. And this is called a small medium enterprise, SME. SME entrepreneurship. I have a restaurant, I'm a dentist, I'm a doctor, I'm a nail salon. I produce some product for someone in our area. All right. So this is a very important part of the economy. It is non-tradable jobs. They're geographically distributed, and they basically service the population. They're the foundation. On the other hand, there are these things called innovation-driven enterprise companies, or IDE entrepreneurship. And what they do is they produce a product that's going to go beyond just our local region. In other words, there's some innovation in it that allows us to be able to sell products even when we're sleeping, that we don't have to. If I'm a dentist, I can't get revenue when I'm sleeping. I have to be able to produce, I have to be there. I have to have another person there. But if I produce a product, if I produce an iPhone, if I produce something, a new marker that's a high quality, that's different, I can ship that to places beyond our local region because it's unique. So what's getting hit right now, and what are people in the SME category, people who are working for other people in service business and not in the necessarily product business. And so this is unfortunate. It's extremely unfortunate. But I want to tell you, you can take control by being able to be an IDE entrepreneur. You should think about, how do I create a company that has some unique value for people beyond just, I'm the one in the neighborhood who can do this thing. And that is the essence of disciplined entrepreneurship, is how do we think about, producing a product that's highly scalable. And in disciplined entrepreneurship, we do that first by who is our customer, building back from who is our customer. And there's 5 steps at the beginning that are very systematic about how we choose a beachhead market and how we then figure out if that market's big enough, how we build a demographic, psychographic, and then how we come up with a persona. This is not something that we invented. This is something that has been tried and true. When you look at successful entrepreneurs over the last 50 years, it's a remarkable how many of them come from one company, and one company that's not often acknowledged. And I'm not talking about IBM. I'm not talking about Intel. I'm not talking about Fairchild Semiconductor. I'm not even talking about Hewlett-Packard. I'm talking about a company called Procter & Gamble. And Procter & Gamble builds up a demographic. That is, here's our target customer, here's their needs, and then they map their product to that. And this is something that now we often call design thinking. And this is a very good way to think about it, but it has worked forever. We start with the customer and we build our business back from that. Secondly, after we have done that, we understand the number one priority of our customer. Then we focus our product development on what they care about most. We focus our product to create a quantified value proposition relative to time to market, whether it's reducing costs, whether it's increased time to failure, increased security. Whatever it is, we don't build a product in a vacuum. We build that product and map it back to the number one priority, that thing that keeps our customer awake at night. Once we've done that, we have created value for our customer, but have we created unique value? And that unique value is something that we go through in steps 10 and 11. What is it, your special sauce? And thinking about that is very, very important, because that's where you're really going to invest to make a product that other people can't make that's really going to be better for the world than what anybody else is making. And the toughest competition you're going to face is your as-is state. That's the toughest competitor you're ever going to face, because people don't want to change what they're already doing. So the disciplined entrepreneurship approach goes through, who is your customer? What can you do for your customer? And then what can you uniquely do? And in that process, we validate who are the next 10 customers. So we never build a product in a vacuum. We're always connected to that customer. And the next 10 customers comes in at step 9 of the 24 steps, which unfortunately I don't have the visuals to show you. But that's where we lock in to say, do we have the right use case or job to be done? do we have the right high-level product specification? Because we don't need to build a product until we know we're going to build the right product. And then we look at it and we say, is this quantified value proposition compelling? Compelling enough to get them to change their current habits. And that's when we say, are these things true for one person? That's our persona. But are they true for 10 more additional customers? Because if they are, then we're going to get very tight product market fit. So in that case, when we do that, then we have to make sure that what we do is unique. Oh, look at this. You have it. This is your screen, correct?
Yeah, I'm just sharing these ones. I assume that's what you're.
Yes, yes. Okay, so the blue ones in step 1 to 9 are who's your customer. The red ones are what can you do for your customer. And that's where we get to the quantified value proposition. And then 10 and 11 are what is it that we do uniquely. So this is the really important stuff of who's our customer, what can we do for our customer. And it's very important that before you build products, as Simon Sinek talks about, before you build the how, worry about the how and the what, worry about the why. And the why goes back to the who. So you have to know the who to know the why. When you know the why, then you can start building the how and the what. And so this systematic way to build it up, we have seen work. But it's not enough to just build a product. The product doesn't create value unless the customer acquires the product. And so in steps 12 and 13, we look at who is the end user, who is the economic buyer, who is the champion. Now, this is, again, nothing that we created. It's things that have worked. They worked at IBM. They work at Oracle. This is the fundamentals of customer acquisition. And we break it down and say, who are these people? Should you go to the economic buyer first because they have the money? Actually not. Should you go to the end user because they need to use it? Because if they don't use it, there will be no economic buyer. No, actually, we start with the champion. Who is the person that will push to have this done? And then will the end user use it? Because if they use it, there's value created, then someone will pay for it. We systematically break this down in ways that are very easy for you to understand. And then we talk about how they acquire the process, how they acquire the product. So after that, we've done that. Now we have the sufficient knowledge to figure out, can we make money off the product? And then if we do, then it's worth building the product. And then we can build a highly scalable business. So this is why we put together disciplined entrepreneurship, to stop thinking about some one person, some area has all the expertise. This is a toolbox that we have built that brings in the best of everything. And if there's something else that needed to be added to the toolbox, it's open source. Let's add it in there. Our goal is to make entrepreneurship a cumulative body of knowledge where we are sharing best practices. So let me just go to the second part, which is, why is this important to you? First of all, you should understand that entrepreneurship can be taught. We have very compelling evidence and data that the more times that you're an entrepreneur, the more likely your odds are to be successful. So you can learn entrepreneurship. And anyone who's been an entrepreneur knows that. It's not a science in the fact that if you do A and B, you will definitely get C. And it never will be, because entrepreneurship, the very nature of it is that every time you do it successfully, you are creating something novel and new that's never been done before. So there can be no algorithm. So if I create a company like this, then you have to take lessons I've learned and you have to create something different. So it can never be a science. But that does not mean it's an art, a black art that nobody understands. It is not. Art is kind of something that's for special people, elite. This is a craft. It's like pottery. It's something that all of us can do, and we can all create unique products, but we can get some instruction, some first principles as how do we get better at this? And then we apply that through an apprenticeship model. So entrepreneurship can be taught. It's taught in this as a craft, not a science. And it's something that must be taught in an apprenticeship model. And the second point I say, not only can it be taught, every single person on this call, every single person in the world can be an entrepreneur. We are born entrepreneurs, and then it's slowly taken away from us. If you look at the history of mankind, nobody ever died on this, in Mesopotamia or Greece or Rome, sitting on the street saying, I can't create a business because I need to wait until there are big corporations where I can apply for a job. Not at all. They created their own opportunities. And you see this today when you go out to places. If you need to be an entrepreneur, you will be an entrepreneur. The only question becomes, can you become a scalable entrepreneur? Can you become a better entrepreneur? And that was the first point I made. So you can be an entrepreneur. It can be taught. And let's just talk briefly about, what it is. The 24 steps will be very helpful to you. No doubt about that. Lean Launchpad will be very helpful to you as well. But the number one thing that we talk about to get started to be a successful entrepreneur is not the head. It's the heart. We talk about the 4 H's all the time. To be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be, first of all, willing to be different, because the very nature of entrepreneurship is you're creating something new. So if all the fish are swimming this way, you have to be very comfortable swimming that way. And not only comfortable, but enjoy it. And not only enjoy it, but understand that's a journey you want to go on, because it's not going to be easy. It's going to be very hard, but it's so worth the reward. I go back to my opening comments about at IBM. I left IBM even though I had all the security and I had promotion opportunities and all that kind of stuff, because I wanted to control my own destiny. I wanted to go on that journey where I didn't have to fit into a job specification. I could create my own job that I wanted. And that journey is hard. It's not about money. It's about purpose. It's about controlling your destiny. And so when you understand that, you have the strong heart, you have the mindset, you have the spirit, then you can go through the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. And I can tell you, as someone who's well into his 60s now, I am so glad I did that. It wasn't the best thing every day at all, and I certainly could have made more money in the short run by doing other things. But today, I am so proud that I control my own destiny. The money comes at some point. We're all going to have enough money, but it was a way for me to earn money that I was really excited about. I could go to work and feel just like I did when I played basketball. I was nervous, but I was excited. I was pushed. I was learning things every day, but I was creating the environment that I wanted, and I controlled my own destiny. So it starts with the heart. You have to be willing to go on this hard journey. You have to know it's going to be hard, but it's so worth it. There's no reward for an easy job. The second part is, it does. Once you're excited about entrepreneurship, you have to understand the theory. You have to understand those first principles. And that's where the 24 steps and other things that Studio G will provide for you come into play. But you cannot be a successful entrepreneur by just wanting to be an entrepreneur and studying the books, watching the videos. You have to go to the hands. You start with the heart. You then have to know what to do, but then you got to get on the field and you got to try it. As I said, entrepreneurship is a craft. You learn it by an apprenticeship model. Just like when I play basketball, I study what I did. What I do not, I go back out and I try it again. Then I study what I did. It's theory, practice, theory, practice, theory, practice over and over again. Entrepreneurship is no different. It's a craft. So while we must have the heart, we must have the knowledge, then we must have the hands to be able to do it. Knowledge is not sufficient. It comes down to capability. The last H, the fourth H, is home. That is a community. And I want to emphasize this because if you saw movies, you would say entrepreneurship is an individual sport. Look at Mark Zuckerberg. Look at Steve Jobs. This is not the case. The evidence is very clear. Entrepreneurship is a team sport. The more founders you have, the more likely you are to be successful. Now, the other thing is, if you just think about this, how much gets done by one person? Not much. It's teams that get things done. And so as an entrepreneur, you have to think about, I have to build a team. I need a strong team. That is the number one indicator of success. It is not your original idea. That's the least important. It's not actually who your customer is, because you can find a customer, but it actually is not even the discipline of it. It's building a coherent, cohesive team. And what will make a coherent, cohesive team? Three things. First, a common vision. We all are pursuing this goal, whether it's reducing carbon footprint, whether it's creating new jobs in New Mexico, whatever it is. That's our common goal. It's not a product. It's not just solving a specific problem. It's we have a purpose here. And so when we have a purpose, now we need to get people that we want to be on the same team. We need shared values. That's the second one. So again, when I play basketball, I know if I do my job and I have the right team, that I can trust the other people to do their job. If Joe Carabino gets a rebound and throws the outlet to me, my job is to get to the other foul line. And then when I get to the other foul line, Tom Mannix is coming on the right. He's actually going to set up in the corner, and Randy Burkett's cutting hard to the hoop on the left. But I don't have to worry about them. But it breaks down if I have to worry about whether they're doing their job and I'm looking over my shoulder and they're looking over their shoulder. So you've got to have this team with common shared values, common vision and shared values. But the last thing is complementary skills. Again, in sports, you have to have different people on the team. So not everyone can be a point guard. Not everybody can be a center. You've got to have different complementary skills, and it's the same thing for entrepreneurship. So when we talk about a community, we talk about the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and how you have to find your soulmates to start a company with. But then you have your kind of external crowd, the pack that you're working with. That's the community. How entrepreneurship was once defined by Howard Stevenson as the pursuit of opportunities with resources beyond your control. Totally different than when I was at IBM. When I was at IBM, they said, here are your resources, Bill, achieve this goal. But now when I'm at a startup pursuing opportunities with resources beyond your control, I can't own everything. I can't be in that control and conquer. I'm in a community. I'm at Studio G. I asked Kramer, can you help me out on this? And he says, you're a good member of the community. I will help you. And then he calls me up and I said, Kramer is a good man. I will help him on whatever I can help him with. And this is how you build a strong community. And you don't all have to be in the same team, but you're supporting each other. And I'm not just talking about emotionally. I'm talking about I'm talking about with skill sets and other assets you might have. So this is really, really important, this distributed way of operating. So entrepreneurship is about the spirit, the heart. It's about the skill set, the head and the hands, but it's also about a way of operating, which is the community. And that's what we need to build more and more so in community today, and faster. COVID has made this very clear. Oh, just one final point on community, which I tell our people all the time, and I'm sure you see this in Studio G. It goes back to Rudyard Kipling and the Law of the Jungle, in the Jungle Book. He said, the strength of the pack is in the wolf. We as entrepreneurs at our center all have to contribute. Nobody can just be a freeloader. Nobody can, just be a taker. Everybody has to contribute. That's what makes the pack strong. The strength of the pack is in the wolf, but the strength of the wolf is in the pack. If we have a strong pack, we're all strong wolves, guess what? We can do extraordinary things. And this is a much more efficient model than the old command and control, because now I can get Kramer's expertise, but I don't have to pay for it. And in fact, I don't have to pay for his continual upgrade, continual development to keep it current. And he can get mine. It's a very efficient bartering system. So don't overlook the importance of the community. That is what makes entrepreneurs successful, and that's one of the very important things that Studio G is contributing. So let's finally just talk briefly about, where are we today with COVID-19? Well, I'll tell you, entrepreneurship is more important than it has ever been. Entrepreneurship is not just about startups. It's about those 4 H's I just talked to you about. Because if you have those 4 H's, much like I talked to you about my being at IBM, I'm now what I call anti-fragile. I don't worry if IBM product doesn't work. I don't worry about, where they have a bad year. I don't worry about if there's bad things happen as much. I'm not that nervous because I know if there's change, and there is going to be change, that I'm going to embrace that, because change is what entrepreneurs, they don't survive that. That's what they live for. That's what you're about when you're an entrepreneur. When the chessboard's knocked over and COVID happens, you know what? We never wanted COVID to happen. And my sincere sympathy goes out to anyone who's affected by that, including many people I know. But you know what? We have got to move forward. We've got to move forward. And that's what we do as entrepreneurs. That window just closed. We didn't want it to close, but the reality is it's closed. Let's go figure out what new opportunities that creates and how we're going to fix the fact that that window just closed. It's entrepreneurs who are going to solve how do we get out of this coronavirus. It's entrepreneurs who are going to take advantage of the new opportunities that we see be created by coronavirus, because now we can't be with each other. How can we use digital tools to be more effective? How can we put exercise equipment in our house? How can we do more education at home? How can we do movies online, streaming? All those things happen because there's change. And if you have the heart, the head, the hand, and the home, then you can take advantage of change. And the world is going to change. The world will never be as slow as it is right now. It's only going to get faster. So everybody needs to embrace entrepreneurship. Doesn't mean management is going to go away, but there's going to be change. And the anti-fragile people, which is what we think about what we're doing, we're not creating startups. We at the Trust Center create anti-fragile people, and anti-fragile people who don't break in the face of adversity. They don't break in the face of ambiguity. They don't break in the face of randomness. They don't even they're not resilient in that they just go forward and they ignore all this. Anti-fragile is not the neutral condition. Anti-fragile is the positive condition, where in this state of change, in this state of adversity, in this state of ambiguity, randomness, disorder, anti-fragile people thrive. We're the ones who fix things. We're the ones who you can lean on. So that's what I think about COVID has brought about. I no longer think of my job as an entrepreneur educator to create entrepreneurs who create startups. I think of our job as how do we create people who control their own destiny and thrive and solve problems for other people in these times. And boy, do we need it. Boy, do we need it. So I will stop now, and hopefully there will be questions. But I was thinking last night, when I think about Native Americans and kind of what's going on, this is an appropriate message for you. Kramer, are there questions out there?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of questions that came in the chat, so I'll ask those. That was really great, Bill. We think about it a lot the same way of you focus on developing the entrepreneur more so than an individual venture. And we've seen a lot of clients come through that, they started with one idea, didn't work out, but they learn the process and then they're able to get to one that works.
Our job as educators is not to catch a fish. Our job is to teach them how to fish, right?
That's exactly right.
Really interesting. I'm sure you've seen this is over the past 4 or 5 years, we get corporations as much as we get, people who want to start companies coming in and saying, we need entrepreneurs, and they do. And by the way, we need them at New Mexico State. We need them at MIT. We need them in the government. We need them in our churches. We need them in our reservations. We need them everywhere.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely agree. All right, so let's get into the questions. The first one is from Peter Choi with Cyber Sonata. He's asked, does this technique, he's talking about disciplined entrepreneurship, is it applicable in diverse cultural differences around the world, or is it largely U.S. focused?
Disciplined entrepreneurship is in, I think, 23 different languages, and I had no idea whether it would be or not. But I was just on a phone call. I was just before this doing a talk for people from 80 different countries. Our online one has gone to 199 different countries. I get emails from people in different countries that I have never been and don't understand. One was from Zimbabwe, and it said, for the first time in my life, I see a path to financial independence. So that does not mean that it is just cut, copy, and paste, Peter. Let me be clear. The fundamentals apply, but you have to put them in the context of that. So just a simple example. In the United States, if you took disciplined entrepreneurship and I say your minimum total addressable market should be $10 million per year. Well, if you're in another place, you might only need 100,000, right? So the same principles apply, but they can be tweaked a little bit. And by the way, that's what makes me so happy, Peter, and to see it deployed like this. That was not my personal experience, but it has evolved over time to be able to fit in many different ones.
Yeah, we've found that too. That originally the book was kind of focused on innovation-driven enterprises, but we've seen a lot of value that can be added to all types of businesses.
Yeah, that's Kramer, and I get that all the time. Yeah. You say that it's IDE, but it's applicable to SMEs too, and it is, but not all of it, because in an SME, you don't have to worry about raising as much money. You don't have to worry about that kind of new product innovation debt, as I talk about. You don't have to worry about giving up ownership. Basically, SMEs are 100% owned by the people who started them.
Definitely. You're getting a bunch of good thank yous in the chat, Bill. Next question I got is from Marlene Prieto from UTEP. She asks if you can only be an entrepreneur in one area of life, or would you be able to change areas throughout your life?
Yeah. So first of all, let me just say, all of us need entrepreneurial skills, and all of us need management skills as well. You can't just be a full-out entrepreneur. Once you create a successful company, you have to manage those assets to make sure that they're protected and they're used appropriately. So in our lives, we have these dials that we turn up, entrepreneurial mindset, skill set, and way of operating in some circumstances, and other ones we turn it down and turn up the management one. And what are the areas in which you do it? When there's a lot of change. So to your question, Marlene, you can absolutely, I didn't know this, but I get asked to help out in situations where I don't know anything about it. Again, this call I was just on, there's a lot of refugees from around the world. And how does that apply? It does. How you think about things, your willingness to be different, your willingness to kind of hack the system to come up with a new idea. When I say hacking, I mean it the MIT way, which is not an illegal activity. It's kind of like rewiring things to be more efficient. That type of mentality is really good to have in your mindset, but you don't use it all the time. You use it in times of crisis and times of change. And just to the point, Marlene, MIT has capability in all these things. In this COVID crisis, our center, and I don't know if you've seen this, Kramer, has just become much, much more important because there's all this ambiguity, there's all this change. And one of the deans said to me, we need to get you out there more because you figured out how to turn lemons into lemonade. And I got a whole bunch of people who are just overcome with anxiety right now. And so we have done a lot of work in that area. By the way, I would recommend two things here. There's an anti-fragile entrepreneurship speaker series, which is on our website, entrepreneurship.mid.edu/speakers, which is free. And there will be a course coming out on edX, which is really going to synthesize that down, which is very terrifically interesting. And then there's also another website called disciplinedentrepreneurship.com where you can get a whole bunch of videos, templates, and all kinds of interesting stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll put that link in the chat. Very good.
I wish I could see all these people out here. This is not as much fun for me.
They're talking in the chat. That's they're all going in there.
I can't see the chat.
Click on it's on comments on the right if you click on it. All right. Okay. Another question from Mariah Tomara. She's the director of our state's Science and Technology Office.
Yeah.
She asks, how do you get valuable feedback from potential customers for a needed product? Customer discovery is difficult when people are not willing to tell you their pains. Yeah. Any strategies for that?
Yeah, so two things. First of all, one thing we say at our center all the time, it's not just getting the feedback, it's receiving the feedback. And so what we tell all the time at our center is feedback is the breakfast of champions. You have to, first of all, make your team, understand that in the search for truth, consistency comes in second. Anyone who thinks they know everything is going to fail. You have to get people in the mindset that they want to hear feedback, because no one's going to give feedback to people who are just going to ignore it. So feedback is the breakfast of champion. The second thing is, it is not the customer's jobs to design the product. That is not their job. That's your job. It's your job. Your job is to design the product. Your job is also to figure out what's the job to be done. There's a lot of great work done by Clay Christensen, God rest his soul, and Bob Modesta on jobs to be done. So their job, so getting feedback from them just says doing really good primary market research. How, what's a good day for you? What's a bad day for you? And how do you kind of lead to the job to be done? And once you understand the job to be done, then you will know very quickly, what product to design, does that product fit? And then you would go back to them, and with the willingness to get feedback, the job to be done, your product should be pretty close. And if you're willing to listen, they should help you just kind of navigate that last chip shot to the green. Well, it's never a chip shot. And then let me just also recommend another thing. And I wrote a review on it in Disciplined Entrepreneurship. Great book by a guy named Mark Randolph, who was a co-founder of Netflix. It's called That Will Never Work. And basically he goes through how the whole point of entrepreneurship is you come up with hypotheses and you test them. And you try to get the best hypotheses you can, but it's never correct. And how he goes through how Netflix has used data to validate what things are true or not. Because sometimes customers will tell you things that aren't true. And the only way you know is with data and doing A/B testing.
Very good. All right, next question is from Scott Kennard. He runs our Studio G site at NMSU Carlsbad. He asked, does disciplined entrepreneurship also work for nonprofits? Because it seems like there's a holistic nature to your methodology.
Absolutely. Some of our great success stories, WeCycle, Sanergy, are nonprofits. Well, let me just say, they use this. And what you do is your goal in that is not to maximize profit. And when we do a TAM with that, as opposed to doing revenue per year, they do whatever their purpose is. How many people do we want to get jobs or whatever? So you have this dual thing, but you never do. We used to have this thing called social entrepreneurship class, and then we had the class that I teach, and I merged them together because disciplined entrepreneurship is about how do you create value for people and extract enough value so that you make the organization keep going. So it absolutely works for that. And even if you have to get your money from, even if your economic buyer is a family foundation or a charitable organization, they want to see concrete results. They want to see you operating with discipline. So 100%, Scott. And it's made our nonprofits and purpose-driven. Hopefully all of our companies are purpose-driven, but it has made them much more effective.
Very good. Perfect. This one kind of piggybacks on something you said about the decision-making unit. So Janeda Benali's emergent entrepreneur, she's asking, how do you define who is the champion? Can you break that down just a little bit more?
Yeah, so this is step 12 and 13. And so let's just take this phone, for instance. This phone, who is the end user of this phone? We know that this phone, I am the end user of this phone, right? I'm the end user. Who is the economic buyer? Who pays for this phone? Well, It could be many different people. It could be myself. I could be the economic buyer. The economic buyer could be, my kids. That's different. It could be MIT. It could be a business. If I had a business, it could be any of those, right? So that economic buyer is the one who pays for it. I use it. I could also be the economic buyer. The champion is the one who pushes to buy this phone. You need a new phone. You need an Apple iPhone. You need an Apple iPhone 11. That's the person inside this, not the salesperson, inside who pushes to have me do that. That champion, in this case, could be my kids, because they say, we don't want to hear questions about Android for us supporting Android for you. We want to be able to have you FaceTime with our kids. We want to buy one of these, so you'll buy one for us. Whatever the reason is. In an organization, in a B2B situation, the champion is the one who has, if they're in a company, they're the one who's pushing to get the sale done. They may not pay for it. They may not be the user, but they're the ones who are pushing for it. Example, we had one team that was doing a water purifier for data centers. The facilities manager in the data center was the one who was going to use it. The data center manager would pay for it, would come out of their budget. But neither of them would get it on their own. The person who pushed for this water filter was the green czar, the vice president of sustainability, because this would reduce the carbon footprint and this would reduce their use of water. So the champion, while they weren't the end user, the economic buyer, they pushed the organization to do it because the facilities manager says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I care most about reliability. The data center manager says, I don't care that much. I don't get measured on greenness. If my facilities manager is one, and it was this person who pushes for it. I have to be faster. We got 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
All right, let's get another question from Julia Alger. She's a student at NMSU. What are some effective ways to still network with COVID and not being able to communicate face to face?
This is Julie. This is one of the big challenges. It's been really hard. What I would heartily recommend is virtual. By the way, serendipitous collisions are what we're really missing right now. And that's what we had at our center, and that's what you would have at Studio G. Serendipitous collisions are where a lot of innovation happens, where you meet people and you just talk to them around the coffee cooler. What I would say now is virtual hackathons, virtual pitch to match. Get involved with those and try to do it. It's much, much harder because you have to be much more intentional about it. I've heard people talk about coffee roulette, where they join a group of entrepreneurs and then they just spin it and they get a new person. Hopefully that helps. Great question. Hopefully we'll be out of COVID soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Here's another question from Kate. She's running a company called Solidarity. Read a great deal about of your book. She learned about lifetime value of a customer, COCA. She didn't learn these things till the end of her MBA program. Why do you think these are not more integrated into academic curriculums?
Kate, great question, and I scratch my head all the time. Entrepreneurship has not been a respected field. You could not get tenure if you studied entrepreneurship. So therefore, it was considered a second-class citizen. I find this to be incredibly short-sighted. It's just wrong right now. We shouldn't be calling them schools of management. We should be calling them schools of entrepreneurship and management, entrepreneurship, leadership, and management, because it's known. But in the past, MBAs were set up for business administration. They were set up to de-risk large organizations, to make them more predictable, to make them more efficient. And we just haven't turned that freighter around yet. But we're trying, and you as students should demand this, because it's crazy that it isn't. Anytime you go out and apply for a job, or you analyze a company, or you pick up an annual report, you'll see people talking about LTV and CAC now. When I first wrote the book, it wasn't common. Now it's just required. As well, by the way, as business success and net promoter score. You'd be shocked to know, Kate, that there's a lot of inertia in educational institutions, and they're not always up with the times.
Very good. Well, I think that's a good one to end on. I know you've got somewhere else to be, Bill. So we really appreciate you being here. This is great. Hopefully, we can have you back sometime. And I really appreciate all that you do.
I appreciate what you're doing, Kramer, and for the American Indian Institute too. I'm so glad. Become more anti-fragile. Take control of your destiny, and the world needs more entrepreneurs, and we need them all over the place. We don't just need more in Silicon Valley and Boston. We need them all over. This is the solution to our problems. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right, thanks a lot. And then
be in touch, Kramer.
Yeah, very good. Thanks a lot, Bill.